I was so naive. I got started in January, so I remember making some Valentine's Day designs, and I made like one or two designs for Valentine's Day, and thinking, okay, I'll get a couple Valentine's Day, and then I'll get a couple St. Patrick's Day. The small amount of slots I had, I spread into these extremely competitive niches
Yeah.
without niching down at all. I mean, I literally think my first one was a heart that said Happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah. Today I'm going to be starting a new show on this channel called Print on Demand Wisdom. And this will be essentially a podcast type of format where I interview different people in the print on demand space in order to get different opinions and different experiences so that you can learn new strategies and new ideas of how to grow your own print on demand businesses and to make more income. And today, for the first episode, I'm going to be interviewing Adam Young, who has been in the online business space since 2015. He started off selling on eBay and on Amazon FBA, and he now focuses on Merch by Amazon, where he's in tier 100,000. He's also got 2 Etsy shops, a Redbubble shop, he sells on KDP, and what's quite interesting is that he has 3 different blogs for affiliate marketing, which we're going to go into later on. If you want to check out Adam's channel, it will be linked down below. He's just started his own YouTube and the videos are amazing. I really enjoyed watching some of them, so check it out and you can contact him on there. And let's get started with the first episode of Print on Demand Wisdom. Hi Adam, how are you doing?
Hey, Philip, I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. What inspired you originally to start with Merch by Amazon?
Yeah, so I don't know if I was necessarily inspired to get started with Merch by Amazon. At the time I was selling on Amazon FBA. So I was doing a
Yeah.
lot of manual work, right? I was ordering products from wholesalers and then packaging them up and shipping them to the Amazon warehouse. And I was having some success with that, but I heard about Merch by Amazon through one of my research days or something like that and thought, man,
Yeah,
this sounds
yeah.
pretty neat. So I applied, and I didn't even really understand or know what print on demand was, but I applied, and then 5 or 6 months later I got accepted, and that's when I kind of revisited it and sort of jumped in.
I see. And which year was this? When did you start with Merch by Amazon?
Yeah, so I applied with Merch by Amazon in the summer of 2017. It was either June or July 2017, and I didn't get approved until either December or early that January of 2018.
Oh,
And that's,
really?
yeah, it took a long time. I almost forgot about it, really.
Did you only apply once and it took that long to get
Yep,
accepted? Or
only applied
oh,
once.
right.
I
Okay.
just threw an application in, applied one time. I had no print on
Yeah.
demand experience, and like I said, almost forgot about it, and then got the email, congratulations, you're approved. And then I thought, well, I better start learning about this.
Yeah. I bet it was a lot easier than carrying on with the FBA stuff. Do you still do that today or have you stopped doing that?
I don't know. I don't
Oh,
do the FBA stuff. Yeah, it's a lot easier. At least, easier in certain ways, I would say for
yeah.
sure. One of the real hard things about FBA is when you're buying products and trying to resell them on Amazon, you have to spend that upfront cost on inventory. And one of the
Yeah.
beautiful things, as you know, about print on demand with Merch by Amazon or most platforms is you
Mm.
don't have the cost of upfront inventory. If we had to buy all of our shirts in large, extra large, and all those colors, we'd
Yeah.
probably never do it.
No.
So that was a big change. That was one of the biggest things that was a lot easier. There's no upfront cost in inventory. I only have to kind of come up with the designs. You still have to put in time, but yeah, it was a lot easier. And once I started to kind of get the wheels spinning on print on demand, as that went up, my time with FBA went down, and eventually I just stopped FBA altogether.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You kind of just need PC, internet access, and you got to go, aren't you? Which
Yeah,
is so
exactly.
rare that you don't really have to invest anything to get started. So, what, in your opinion, for people who maybe don't have access to Merch by Amazon,
Yeah.
who are not getting accepted, what, in your opinion, is like the next best option when it comes to print on demand?
Yeah. So I think the next best option, I know a lot of people might say Redbubble or Etsy. I actually think the next best option is Amazon KDP. And I'll
Ah,
explain
okay.
why.
Yeah,
First of all, Amazon KDP is, as far as I know, it's instant approval. As long as you say who you are and you're not doing
yeah,
anything, fishy, you get
yeah.
approved. The program is open. So you get in right away. The second thing is there are a ton of similarities between the research and design process with Merch by Amazon as are with Amazon KDP. And you're literally doing it on the same exact platform. So if
Yeah.
I've put an application in for Merch by Amazon and I'm waiting to hear back, well, I can get approved for Amazon KDP right away. And I'm already in Amazon looking at the search features, learning about BSR, learning about finding niches, keywords, all of that applies to KDP. Yes, it's a little bit different of an end product. You're doing a print on demand book or journal or something like that, but that would be my strongest recommendation because it's going to make you it's when you do get approved for Merch by Amazon with that KDP experience, you'll already be one or two legs up because the process with these other platforms is much different than it is with Amazon.
Mm-hmm. So do you use the same designs that you use on your t-shirts on KDP as well then, or do you do separate research sometimes?
Both. I absolutely do both.
Yeah.
So, if I have a design that I think is that could transfer over well to KDP, then yes, I'll most certainly repurpose that and put it on KDP. A lot of your like just simple journals and notebooks, excuse me, things like that work really well. But I also, realize that KDP has a whole nother sort of side where you can do some very specific KDP research and come up with stuff that wouldn't necessarily apply to your Merch by Amazon designs or your print on demand designs, but you can still have a lot of success with. So I do both.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. So do you just sell the sort of low content notebooks, journals, that sort of stuff? Or do you also sometimes do coloring books? Because I know a lot of people on YouTube would probably recommend to do coloring books or those sort of more unique things.
Yeah. I do both. I definitely started off with just the low content stuff. I mean, I think that's the easiest sort of low hanging fruit. And I do have, I'm fortunate, I've gotten a couple in there that have become regular sellers. So those low content journals, notebooks, planners, or not planners, but journals, notebooks, diaries, things like that. I have a fair amount of those, but I also have experimented with some other specific KDP products that are a little bit more like middle content. So like you said, coloring books. I've also had some success with activity books, right? Where, there's word searches and mazes and little games and things like that. And then I've had some success by creating I wouldn't even say it's still pretty low content. It's not like a difficult interior, but maybe an interior that targets that very, very specific type of niche, right? So instead of just a general interior, it's something that's customized or tailored to whatever the cover shows.
That's really interesting. I've never really looked that far into KDP, so there's definitely some good tips there for people who don't have access to Merch by Amazon to maybe go more in depth into KDP and create something unique rather than just a design on the cover, line paper, and done with it. I'm pretty sure you can definitely, like you said, get creative with the interiors and create something that people are more prone to buying. Really interesting. So what would you say to people who maybe don't have any design experience? Because I kind of feel like there's two types of people in the print on demand space. There's those who came into it because they're really passionate about design and then found out they can sell their designs through print on demand. And then there's those sort of more business minded, which is, I'm guessing, which you are, who don't have many design skills, but maybe want to outsource that. Like, what would your suggestions be for those people who don't have design skills?
Yeah, that's a great question. I definitely fall into that camp. As much as I'd like to say I'm an artist or try and draw, I mean, I'd certainly enjoy it, but I mean, natural talent, it doesn't flow through me. So anything I've learned along the way has just been through some stubbornness and hard work. But I primarily outsource a lot of my designs. I realized one thing early on, and this would apply to anyone else, like, know what you're good at and know what you're not good at. And I know I am not a very good designer. I just don't have that natural artistic flow. Someone could draw something, a natural artist could draw something in a fraction of the time, and it would look 10 times better than it would take me a half a day to do it. Right.
Yeah.
So
makes sense.
yeah, I think, in order to kind of, you got to be real with yourself and say, hey, I want to learn this skill and pursue it. Or in my case, I said, this is something I don't want to put a lot of my time into. I'd rather outsource and source my designs. So if you're in that boat, I would say start experimenting and learning about the outsourcing process, right? There's a lot of different websites out there that you can get in touch with very talented graphic artists.
Such as, like, what are some of the
Yeah,
websites that
sure.
you use?
So a couple of them off the top of my head. I mean, Fiverr is one. Fiverr gets sometimes a bad rap, but there are talented artists on there for a fair price. Upwork is another one. Upwork.com is I've had a lot of success with. You can put out a job listing and kind of interview the applicants. That's better for trying to find more of a long-term artist.
Yeah, I can definitely back that. I've not used Upwork for design work, but for my YouTube channel now to find an editor, and it is a really good platform to outsource stuff.
Yeah.
And even find cheap work. It doesn't have to be expensive just because it's not Fiverr.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. Another one that is good is called onlinejobs.ph. And that is a website that's primarily you're outsourcing clients, or you're outsourcing employment from the Philippines. So this is a Philippines website where there's primarily people from the Philippines on there, and they have everything from graphic design to web editing, and that's another one that you can find some great talent on. And my last tip on that is Instagram. Actually, is Instagram. I have had some of my best artists on Instagram.
Yeah,
and I do that by you just search some hashtags of what you're interested in. Maybe there's a certain genre or type of art, or you search freelance artist or freelance graphic design. Most talented graphic artists are going to have some kind of visual profile, and Instagram is very popular for them to showcase their art. Send them a message and say, hey, I'm a print-on-demand seller. I'm looking to partner with somebody to make some designs. How about a test design, and get the ball rolling there?
Yeah, that's a really good tip. I actually never thought about that, because especially a lot of the smaller channels like that, or not channels, but Instagram pages, they'll probably never get messages from people wanting to pay them for their work.
Yeah.
I know, because when I started out with logo design like 5 years ago, I started a page like that, and you kind of hope for that to happen, like a customer just to come to you, but it never does. So that's definitely a great tip to find some hidden talent. You could just search for t-shirt design, or
definitely
anything, maybe even print on demand. Maybe you'll find print on demand designers through searching that hashtag. One of the questions that I get asked the most, or that seems to be on people's minds, is how to get out of tier 10. Do you have any advice for people who are stuck in tier 10 and can't seem to get any sales?
Yeah. My first instinct response on this is, if you can afford it, buy your own designs. Okay. I understand that doesn't apply to everybody, but if you can't afford it, and you consider it a business expense, and you count it as a business expense, buy your own 10 designs, or if you can only afford 5, buy 5 of them. Buy a few of your designs, because it's going to help accelerate you to tier up quicker than if you wait for an organic sale. And number 2, you're going to be able to actually see a product that you're making. You're going to be able to touch the shirt, see the shirt, look at how the colors are different, and how they may vary from what's on screen to when it's actually printed on cloth material. So if you can buy the shirts and count that as an expense, absolutely do it, and don't look back. That's the quickest and best way, in my opinion. However, I understand that not everyone, and totally get that not everyone can do that. So my second recommendation would be to try and reach out to your sort of circle of either friends or family or coworkers or local businesses in your area, and offer them some kind of custom product, right? Offer them, hey, I can make a shirt for your employees, that has your business name and your logo and your phone number, and I'll do it for $13.07 a shirt. Don't try and make any money.
I think that's gone up slightly. I think it's like $13.50 now, probably, with the
Is
price
it? Okay,
change.
well, $13.50.
But it's still cheap.
I guess it's still cheap. The point being, don't try and make a bunch of money off of them. Do it for cheap. So that way, A, you have a better chance of landing the sale, but B, you may build that relationship out, because that business owner or that mother, she may tell her friends and say, hey, I've got a buddy of mine who will make shirts for your kid's birthday party, or for your kids to go wear at summer camp, or I've done it before where I had a close family friend that they went on a family cruise, and
Mm.
there was, it was like two or three different families, and they all wanted matching cruise shirts,
Yeah. Yeah.
because that's very popular on cruises to wear, your family name and the cruise and the dates. It's kind of a fun thing. They do the group picture. And I
Mm.
did it for dirt cheap, and I got like 30 sales because they all ordered shirts. You
Oh,
just
really? That
go
many
up.
people?
Yeah, it was a huge family. Yeah, it was all extended family and the kids and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I think that's a really good way to kind of look within your inner circle, your friends, your family, or even small businesses that you may know or have connections with to
Mm.
try and get some sales.
Mm. One thing I want to mention here is because I know some people are going to say it. At the moment, it seems like even if you get 10 sales, you don't necessarily get tiered up. Like some people have been waiting for nearly half a year or over half a
Yeah,
year. Um, that's true, but still, once Amazon eventually decides we're going to tier up people, um, you will then have those sales, right? You're still buying yourself, or you're
right.
still saving time by buying your own shirts, even if it's not the only decider at the moment to get 10 sales.
Yeah, yeah, and you're right, Philip. But I've read that, especially in a lot of the comments here lately, and that Amazon is. I've seen some people that say, "Man, I've got 40 sales, and 50 sales, and I'm still in tier 10." And
Yeah,
unfortunately, there's a big component of this where Amazon's in control, and no matter what tier you're at or how many sales you have, they move the needle. You got to be patient.
yeah. Yeah, definitely. It is really frustrating for people at the moment, I think. But if you're really struggling and you can't get any sales, you still give yourself a bit of a head start by buying your own shirts or finding
Definitely.
someone to buy them off you. So that's a strategy I used as well back in the day. I just spoke to my friends and saw if
Yeah,
checked if they wanted anything printing, and got a few sales through that. And especially if it's something more generic or something that someone else might buy as well.
yeah,
Like you said, company logo, which probably nobody else on Amazon would be interested
right.
in. If you could maybe make a gift for someone.
Yep. That could be
uh,
repurposed to get organic sales down the road.
yeah, not just buying one shirt and getting one sale, but if it carries on selling, you
Yeah,
might get up to those 10 sales quicker that way as well.
definitely.
Because the first sale is usually the hardest. What is or what has been your biggest regret in the print on demand space? What is there that you wish you'd done sooner, basically?
Oh man, that's a tough one. Um, when I think back to that first year when I first started with Merch by Amazon, and the sort of the frustration and you're just like, man, how do you get some sales? Like, how do you get the ball rolling?
Yeah.
Um, I think what I did at that time was I really jumped all around, right? And I thought I need to make designs for. I was so naive. I got started in January, so I remember making some Valentine's Day designs, and I made like one or two designs for Valentine's Day, and thinking, okay, I'll get a couple Valentine's Day, and then I'll get a couple St. Patrick's Day, and then
Yeah.
I'll get a
Yeah.
couple, and I really the small amount of slots I had, I spread into these extremely competitive niches
Yeah.
without niching down at all. I mean, I literally think my first one was a heart that said Happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
you know,
That's a perfect example, I think, of what a lot of people do in the lower
yeah.
tiers is, yeah, they see the
Yep.
big trends, they do
See the
very
big
generic
trends.
design. Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought, oh man, mine looks cool. I'll get some sales. And I think I lost a lot of time because I didn't know what I know now, what you talk about and what we talk about, which is you got to kind of
Yeah.
niche down, and you got to find something that's more specific, that's more a much more narrow focus. And it
Mm.
took me months and months, maybe even my most of my first year to really learn that. So looking back now, I wish I would have dove a lot deeper into some of these specific niches. If you want to go for a competitive niche, that's fine, but you've got to find a sliver of that pie, something that's speaking to a specific person, target audience.
Yeah.
If you try and put these designs out there that are so general and generic, that you're going to be just lost in a sea of competition.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree with that. And I mean, I did the same mistake. I remember some of my first designs probably said Merry Christmas with
Yeah.
some snowflakes on them. And
Yeah.
obviously no one's going to buy that.
Right.
So there's
Yeah.
like a million designs like that already. And yeah, you have to be more specific and go into a certain hobby or maybe a specific age group,
Yep,
just narrow it down. Like, it seems counterproductive, then your target audience is smaller, but actually it usually makes it easier to get sales.
definitely.
And you mentioned something recently to me that you only just found out about scaling out designs, like
Yes,
automatically. Is that a bit of
yes.
regret because you did that manually for a while, didn't you?
Yes, yes, no, definitely. Yeah. So actually from your channel here in the past couple months, I learned about Automate POD, I think is the
Yeah.
site. So I have always scaled my designs, but I was doing so much of the work manually. So for example, I would, with my graphic designer, I would order, say, a template that
Mm.
said something like world's best with, some kind of graphic. And then in the bottom,
Yeah.
I would tell them just leave that section blank. And then I
Yeah.
would go on my iPad and I would put world's and I would put in grandmother and, stepfather and
Yeah.
godmother and, all these different things. And I'm literally typing the text and centering it and, delete or, upload it and delete and put in the next one. And I was manually doing that. And I mean, I literally was doing that up until just a few months ago when I learned about Automate POD. And now with that software, and I think there's even other ways, excuse me, that you can do that where you can run some kind of script change or something where automatically
Yeah.
we'll just pull off of an Excel sheet or some kind of data set and put those in, and then it just loads them all, or it downloads them all, and then now you've got a whole folder of that particular library of
Yeah.
files.
Yeah.
So holy moly, that's been a huge time saver. I'm almost embarrassed to share that one, but it's the truth. I was manually doing it.
No, I used to do it manually as well. I remember it literally take me weeks to create the designs, upload them all
Yeah.
with the like changing the listing of every time. And it's crazy how with those tools, like I do it with Adobe Illustrator now,
Mm-hmm.
which is also really fast. You don't just save a bit of time; you literally save like 99% of the
It's
time.
huge.
It's crazy.
And once you get a system and you kind of learn, how to like what kind of template you need, right, to fit that kind of text, then you can really you can kind of double down because you need my Excel file or my data set, right? And I know I need this much
Mm.
space and you can just hit run and I mean you can have just folders and folders of these scaled out types of designs.
Do you have any advice for people who are getting into Amazon ads? Because that's another question that I get all the time. I don't think there's enough really advice out there for people. And you spend a lot of money on ads, don't you? You did an earnings report. You spent like
Yeah.
2,000 last year, I think.
Yes, I did. Yeah, I
Yeah.
did a lot more than I wanted to in some cases.
Yeah.
You my general advice with Amazon ads is that they can be very powerful and are a great way to bring traffic to your listings,
Mm.
but you do need to take some time to really kind of learn about Amazon ads and how they work. And my general advice would be to start small, right, with your
Yeah.
budgets and sort of your testing pool and slowly build up. So, there's we could probably do a couple different videos on Amazon ads and the
Yeah.
different strategies and stuff like that. But, I think the biggest takeaway if somebody is new and they wanted to start ads is, do some research, watch a couple videos on some introductory campaign types and ways to promote your products.
Mm.
Pick a few, pick a few of maybe your best sellers or products that you think have the most potential and run a low daily budget ad. So you can usually set a daily budget on your ads. And I think you can go down to $1 or $2 per day. Do that. I mean, you start off at $1 or $2 per day and let it run for about a week or so and see how it performs.
Mm.
And try not to get too overzealous from the start because you can get burned really quick with Amazon ads. And next thing you know, you spend a lot of money and you're not getting the clicks and sales.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean that's my general advice is that they can be a great tool. I use them heavily. Some people use them even heavier than I do and really go crazy with the ads.
Mm.
But they take some time to really kind of learn, and you need a sample size over a longer period of time to really understand if they're working. So the way to do that for a beginner is to start with a low daily budget, a low bid amount, and incrementally slowly creep it up until you start to see some traction.
Mm. What's a low bid amount in your opinion? Like how many cents would you recommend starting at?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say 10 cents.
Yeah.
10 cents a bid. I mean, ad rates have gone up, honestly. I mean, I've been doing ads for years now, and I mean, every year they go up, unfortunately. And I remember when I could get like clicks and sales and impressions on like lottery campaigns for like 5 cents a click.
Oh, wow.
But I don't think that's the case anymore. I still start a lot of mine at 10 cents. And I may not get any impressions. I may not get any
Yeah,
traction. And then I'll bump it up usually 2 cents at a time. I'll go to 12 cents, let it
yeah.
run for a couple of days. Then I'll go to 14 cents. I think when you start getting around in the 15 cents per click range, you should start to see some traction depending on the niche, depending on the time of year. But you might start to see some activity around then.
Yeah, that makes sense. And do you mainly do the automatic targeting, keyword targeting, or do you do a lot of specific products or search phrases as well?
I
Keyword.
do both. I mean, I
Yeah.
like the automatic campaigns a lot because when you have if you have a portfolio of a lot of designs, you can put those in those lottery campaigns, is what a lot of people call them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and those with an automatic campaign or an automatic, campaign in a lottery style where you have hundreds or even thousands of products at a very low bid,
Mm.
you can really get some great sales and returns off of that. But I also use the manual and specific strategy. So if I'm trying to promote or push a particular design around a holiday or a
Yeah.
time of year, that's when your manual campaigns can really accelerate a listing. And if you can get a popular listing onto page one during a big event or holiday like St. Patrick's Day, right around the corner,
Mm.
you can do really, really well. But it takes some practice and it takes some work. But the lottery campaigns, auto campaigns are great. That's primarily still
Yeah.
what I start all my campaigns with. And then I may take a segment of those and move them over to manual.
Yeah, yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I've got quite a few lottery campaigns as well, and I would also say to people who are maybe starting out with that is at the beginning, especially if you have a really low bid on those, nothing really happens. But I've noticed that even if you leave it at low bid and you wait like a few months, they do start getting impressions and clicks over time. It's just the start is really slow, but if you're patient
Yeah.
with they can eventually really start getting sales for really little like ad spend, which is amazing. So definitely worth starting some lottery campaigns, especially as a beginner, I think.
Yeah. Where do you start your lottery campaigns at roughly per click?
I think I start as low as like 5 cents, but I also add that I don't even know what it's called, but you can add the placements. I think for like a
Yeah.
hundred and extra. Like
Yep.
people sometimes show you products, so that
Yep.
goes
Yep.
up 10 cents per click essentially sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's really it, as low as possible. And if they're
Yeah.
doing well, then I'll up the bid amount a bit to get more impressions essentially.
Yeah, great.
Yeah,
No, that's yeah, that placement thing can be powerful too, where you can, like you're saying, you can up the percentage of it landing on first page or landing on product search. Those are all just different variables. And yeah, I mean, I think as somebody new, they would probably it's kind of overwhelming because there's all these different, you got your daily budget and your clicks and these, you
yeah,
know, percentage placement. Start really simple. Keep it really simple and easy and slowly kind of build up your comfort level and see what works. And you can have some great success with the ads.
yeah. You don't have to understand everything from the beginning. Like it's
No.
a lot of stuff to it, but just keep it simple and test out. You will learn over time through doing it more. Now, one thing that a lot of people might be interested in if they're getting into the print on demand space is from your experience, what sort of designs sell best? Because there's obviously the big two topics of trends and
Mhm.
evergreens. Like, where do you see the most potential in terms of designs?
I'm team Evergreen.
Yeah,
If I had to pick a camp between the two, I'm team Evergreen.
yeah,
I think that uh Evergreen designs are a deeper pool of designs overall. And I think that my personal philosophy is I would rather have designs that sell every now and then, a lot of designs that kind of trickle every now and then for this steady sort of consistent income, as
yeah.
opposed to getting a home run every now and then, right? And it's kind of
Mm.
feast or famine. I know it's not always like that with trends and evergreens. That's just kind of how I categorize it in my heads. I still definitely do the trends and the holidays and things like that are really seasonal and peak. But overall, I would say the majority of my portfolio, the majority of the research I do, I'm looking for evergreen designs. I want a design that if I'm going to take the time to hire a designer or take the time to design it myself and do the research and keywords and
Yeah.
run ads to it, I want it to sell this year, next year, 3 years from now, you know. So
Definitely
that's
makes
just my personal philosophy.
There's sort of like a third category, I guess, which is the trends that come back every year, like the seasonal
Yep.
trend. Like, yeah, I do those as well. But I mean, current trends which disappear are great for newcomers who are trying
Hmm.
to get out of the lower tiers, as long as they're not infringing on anything. But I think
Right.
besides that, it's the longevity in evergreen designs is just way better. Like you
Yeah,
get value for the time you put into them. Um,
I agree.
like yeah, you might occasionally have a trend if you're first to it where you make a ton
Hmm.
of money, but most of the times when I've entered trends, it's like yeah, a few extra sales and then that's it.
That's what happens. That's what's happened with me as well. You know, the thing about trends is that if it's a trend that's popular, if it's not a seasonal trend like you're talking about, but an actual, you know, some weird thing, all eyes are on it, and a lot of people are going to go to that, and their attention is going to shift to that trend. It's, oh, we got to make some designs. We got to jump on this, and I'm
Yeah,
kind of like, see you guys. I'll just stay over here and keep working away at my evergreen
yeah,
designs.
yeah, totally. No, yeah, I also prefer evergreens, and I think it's overall the better strategy and
Yeah,
less risky because some of those new trends are often stuff in the news and it's usually
yeah,
controversial and might get you
yep.
in trouble. So,
That's a good point.
and we just talked about ads. Do you have any other ways to promote your t-shirts, like besides Amazon ads?
You know, the only other way that I've had some success with promoting my shirts is I also do some blogging. I have a couple websites that
Yeah,
I also run on the side. These are websites where I'm creating like informational content around a niche, and so I'm publishing articles about a topic, and I've actually had some success by using my putting in my t-shirts if they apply to that niche into some of my blog articles into onto my website. And then, you know, if somebody reads that article and they see, I'll give you an example. Like say if I had a website about pets and it was about terrier dogs, the terrier dog breed, right? So
yeah,
I've got articles all about terrier dog breeds, you know, toys and what they eat and questions people ask, you know, and I'm building an audience or a targeted audience of their terrier dog owners. Well, then I might create a print on demand shirt through merch that says, you know, terrier mama or terrier daddy, and it's got a, you know,
yeah,
a Yorkshire terrier on it. And I could put that on my website, and then it doesn't cost me anything. But I have somebody who's already interested in terriers, right? Because they're on my site, and they might be a terrier owner, and then they see that and they say, oh wow, that's adorable, you know, they click it, they have
yeah,
the trust of Amazon, right? Because everybody trusts Amazon. It takes them to that Amazon listing, and they buy a shirt. So I've had some pretty good success with that, and I think there's a ton of potential there. I'm sort of just starting to kind of get into that, but that's the only other way I've been able to get any kind of traffic towards my listings. I don't do any other social media promotion or anything like that.
yeah, yeah. No, I think that's a great tip, and that's something I've not really heard anyone talk about. But it makes sense because you've built an audience, and the
Mhm.
sort of the conversion rate would be way higher if they then,
Yeah.
after reading you for a while or reading your content for a while, see a T-shirt that perfectly fits them. So that's a really great idea. And you said you only just recently started promoting your shirts that way, right? So what did you do with blogging beforehand? Like, how did you monetize it? Or
Yeah. So the blogs, I actually got into the blogs from when during the pandemic when Amazon shut down the North American production, and there was like 2 months there where merch was closed. I think this was
yeah,
in early 2020, I believe.
yeah, you're correct.
Um, and I thought, man, I need to figure something else out, you know. So I had heard about blogging and just did some research on it. And basically, how I generate money with blogs is just with informational content and mainly with ads and affiliate marketing. So anytime you're able to build an audience, right? If I can build an audience about, you know, pets and terrier dogs on a website, people will pay to put ads on there. There's Google AdSense, and then there's a bunch of other ad marketplaces like Azoic, Mediavine, and AdThrive, where you can apply with them and you say, hey, I've got my site here. I've got this much traffic. Can I, you know, work with you as a brokerage to put ads on my site? And they set it all up and they just run these ads. And if you've been on any site and you've seen ads in the content as you're kind of scrolling in windows, That's what it is. I mean, it's very similar to ads on the YouTube channel and, sidebars and things like that. So primarily with ads, and then you can recommend products in your content, right? And you can recommend, doggy toys and leashes and doggy services and all these different things and get affiliate revenue. So that's another one of my little side hustles that I've sort of built up. And I think there's a lot of, like I said, opportunity with print on demand there to match over some products and recommend some things. And it's another just another way that you can make some money online.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, and it might be useful for people who may have thought about starting a YouTube channel but don't like showing their face, because you can just write out
Yes.
information on the internet without having to show yourself, right? Where does the traffic mainly come from? Like, do people find you from Google, or
Mhm.
how do you basically get people to your site? Because
Yeah.
I'm guessing that's quite hard.
That is hard. That's the hardest part. That's a
Yeah.
great question. Most of the time with the blogging model I'm talking about, where you're using you're posting and writing informational content, you're relying on organic Google traffic, right?
Yeah.
So this is people who type in, best dog food for terriers, right? And then your article comes up and it's like, I'm going to review 10 of the best dog foods for terriers. And they click on your link. That's organic traffic. It's really hard to get. It requires you to write good content. That's what Google is promoting. They're saying, hey, we're going to show you this site in the search results because we think it's good content.
Yeah.
And if you know a niche and you put in some research and you are good at writing, it's a fantastic way to build up an audience on a site that you own and control without having to show your face. Like you just said, if you don't like to do that, you don't want to do YouTube, it's an amazing opportunity out there. It still has its challenges and pros and cons like anything else, but I primarily rely on organic traffic. There are people that there's other ways you can drive traffic from social media. You can drive traffic from like Pinterest, and you can even use ads, but those are just different models. I don't have a lot of experience with those, but yeah, I mean, it's a great opportunity if you're good at writing or editing or outsourcing writing and creating content, and you like to kind of, put your words on the screen or on paper, so to speak. You can really there's a ton of opportunity out there in that field.
If anyone's watching now and they're thinking this sounds interesting to me, I like writing and I like the idea of affiliate marketing and putting ads on my site, how would they start blogging? Like, what sort of website would you recommend going to start with that?
Yeah. So most of the blogs that are online and people that use this business model that I'm talking about use WordPress, which has been around for a long time. And you can create a free WordPress website or buy a domain and get some hosting. So if somebody's starting out, don't think that you need to have, web design skills or some kind of deep technical knowledge. There's basically businesses and platforms and templates out there that kind of put it all together for you, and you can get started for very, very cheap. I think you can get hosting for as cheap as $5 or $6 a month. You can buy a domain for $10 a year, and then other than that, you just really need your time to write some stuff. So we could probably do a whole nother separate video on this as well, but get on YouTube and do a little bit of research on starting a blog. You'll see there's a lot of helpful resources out there, and just like anything else, try and learn a little bit, just take it one step at a time. But there is some great opportunities for blogging for people that want to do something else. And the good thing about blogging and starting a site is that you don't have to get approval for merch by Amazon or your account approved by anyone. I mean, it's literally going to be your domain. You would own it, right, if you started it. So it's a long game, but if you can build and grow your own traffic, it can be great.
Yeah, and I can definitely I can confirm that, because I have used WordPress in the past. You don't need to know anything about coding or websites. It's once you get into it, it's fairly straightforward. You can get free themes to sort of style your website.
Exactly.
I'm guessing in a blog format, it's relatively easy. You just write
is
text out, and you have some presets to make it look better. And
exactly. Exactly.
So, definitely a cool idea, or low investment way of
very low investment,
building up an audience and trying to make some some extra money. The last question I've got for you is, if you had to start over today with all of this online business stuff with print on demand, what would you do? How would you start?
Wow. If I had to start over today, I think I would probably try and focus in on one or two areas.
Yeah,
So, I have, shiny object syndrome is a term that gets thrown around a lot with our industry, where
yeah,
people are constantly jumping to the next shiny opportunity, and I'm certainly guilty of that. And I think that's sometimes when you have too many things going on or too much on the plate, everything kind of gets watered down.
yeah,
And I wish, had I known what I know now, and I'm starting my 6th year with Merch by Amazon, I wish I would have just went all in on Merch by Amazon like my first year and my first few years. It really wasn't until the past couple years where I started to really see some good success and realize the power of this platform. And I think back and go, man, if I would have just like went all in on Merch by Amazon early on, maybe taught myself some really great graphic design skills, right? Or become an expert at ads and really learned this platform and went all in on it. I think who knows where it would have led to, but I think that tend to jump around to a bunch of different things. I've already talked about, I did FBA, I did eBay, I do the blogs, I do KDP. I mean, there's pros and cons to that. And the con is that when I have my hands in too many different pots, then sometimes the quality tends to not be there, and the potential, I don't reach the full potential. So starting over, I would have picked one, maybe two areas that I want to focus in on, and I would have tried to do everything I can to become dedicated and experts in those areas until I reached the point where I thought, well, I've maxed out, then I'll go to the next thing.
yeah.
That's probably what I would choose.
Yeah, that's good advice, I think. And I can imagine that a lot of people watching might be guilty of that as well, because there's so many YouTube videos that you get recommended
So
of
many.
like, this new way to make money, that new way to
Yes.
make money. And like we can see it now again with artificial intelligence, 10
Yeah.
ways to make money with AI tools. And it is very tempting to try out everything, but you kind of have to take some risk, decide what you enjoy most,
Yeah.
and go a bit deeper in that direction.
Yep.
And then, yeah, of course, if after half a year you've literally seen no progress, do
Right.
something. But if you, like you said, if you try everything and give everything like 5% of your time, it's most likely not going to work out that well in the
Yeah.
end.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, I think there's a lot of people that are in this that are beginners. I mean, I was in that same boat where you're trying all these different things, and it's in our face everywhere. Make money this way, try this, drop shipping. I mean, there's so many different things. And I think you just said a good point. Find one that you enjoy. If you love to write, if you love writing, find a way to make money with writing, maybe the blogging or, freelancing. If you love graphic design, that's your passion. I mean, that if it's something you get enjoyment out of, you're going to be able to go longer and deeper into that side hustle or business or whatever, than if it's something that you're just dreading every single day. So find something you like, pick one or two things, go all in on them.
Yeah, definitely. That's great advice, because if you actually enjoy something, that's the best motivator to stay productive and
Absolutely.
to actually keep learning. Just finally, if anyone wants to speak to you, where can they find you? How can they contact you?
Yeah, so I just started a YouTube channel called Side Hustles Simplified with Adam Young. And I'm also on Instagram and TikTok as Side Hustles Simplified. So that's the best way to reach out to me. Drop me a comment or shoot me a message. I'm happy to answer any questions or help. And thank you very much, Philip, for having me on your channel. Like I said, I've already learned a ton from you just here in the past few months since I found your channel. So I appreciate you having me on. This is always a good discussion, and
Yeah, you're
forward to
welcome.
next time.
Cool. Thanks a lot for your time. And yeah, we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.